The short answer is Exodus Church is run by a session, which is the plurality of elders. I'm one of 7 elders. David Keithley, preached here a few weeks ago. We have other elders, and our elder team said it. Basically, our policy at Exodus for right now is we do it once a month. So in our denomination, there's no top-down saying you have to do it every week or you have to do it every so many weeks. There is freedom. We recognize that there's freedom given to each local church in their session who says, ask the question, what is best for this particular place at this time period? And so ultimately, we've said once a month, it seems good. Now, the scriptural support would just be, the scripture would just say it needs to happen often, right? Communion, it's a normal part of the worship of God's people. It needs to happen often. There are some that would, within the Reformed community, that would do it every week. John Calvin was all about, hey, do it every week. But we recognize, I think there's 2 ways to kind of go wrong when it comes to how the frequency of communion. One, you bind people's consciences tighter than the scripture itself binds it. So to say, it must be every week. That's totally, to do communion every week, totally fine and valid, and each particular session could say, this is what we want to do here. Okay, that's totally a great way. But to say, and this is the way that it is in the scripture, I think is tying it too tight. We want to bind people not to a certain tradition, but to the scripture itself. But then there's an opposite, I think, pitfall, and it's you do it so infrequently that it doesn't really become a normal part of the church. It is a sacrament. It's a means of grace, and so it's for the good of believers. So, for example, in our presbytery, we have 10 churches in our presbytery. I'd say maybe half of the churches do similar to what we do, like once a month, and they do. This is frequent. It's a normal part of the rhythm of our church. Other churches, a few of them do it every Sunday. There are some churches that do it maybe 6 times a year or quarterly. Again, those sessions determine, hey, this is what we feel like we should do here. They have the freedom to do that. But my point is, you can bind it to people's consciences too quick and say it has to happen every week. Well, Scripture gives a little bit more room to that. But the Scripture does say it needs to be often. So you can, it's judgment call of if you do it like once a year. Some churches don't even do communion. And we would say, no, that's wrong. Because this is a thing that's good for the good of the congregation. So that's what I would say.
Okay.